Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm parent coach, mother of four, and your host, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where you will learn that even for parenting experts like me, there is no such thing as a perfect parent, and that fabulous behavior and amazing relationships are right on the other side of that realization. If you're working your butt off to do right by your kid, honor yourself, and go beyond the BS around you, you are my person, and this podcast is for you. Full disclosure, I'm a sometimes potty talker, and we deal with the challenge of raising kids here. This podcast is for grown-ups, so stick your earbuds in and let's do this. Hello, everybody. Welcome into this week's episode of the podcast. Very excited to be with you today. Not excited about where I am or what's going on in my life right now, so this might look like a nice, relatively okay backdrop, but I am crouched in a hotel room right now. My little doggy Nala was having some health stuff. This is the downside maybe. This is why you might want to do a retreat in Traverse City, but you might not want to live in Traverse City year round, although I do. But she needs some medical stuff that little old Traverse City doesn't have the technology to give her. So I had to scoot my butt downstate and hang out in a hotel tonight while she stays overnight in the little pet hospital here and gets fancy interventions tomorrow. So by the time this episode goes out, it'll all be resolved however the universe has meant it for her. But I'm sending healing vibes, and you can still send them to me no matter what. I'm sure I could use them, whether it's to help with my doggy or something else. Well, that's what's going on with me today. And what a great way to stay present and in the light while I'm killing time until I get to see my doggy again, but to just talk to all y'all today. And that's what I'm going to do. And when I actually started going through my notes to prep for today's episode, I was like, I cannot believe I haven't talked about this already. And I even went back through, I'm like, I must have talked about this already. I must have. I had to go back through like old episodes to just like double check. But yeah, I haven't talked about this today, or at least not in this way. So, what I'm going to talk about today is there's a really famous book out there. I bet for people who love to listen to this podcast, especially in the last year or so, or my content has become more and more about self-growth, more and more about even spiritual growth and stuff like that. I bet a lot of my listeners have heard of, if not read, the book Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. But the concept behind that little quote is what we're talking about today. This idea of bringing a beginner's mind to every moment, even if it's to a moment that contains something you've done 1,000 times before. And what is the value of the beginner's mind, and why is that so important? And what does it mean to have a beginner's mind? So I'm going to talk to you about all of that stuff today. Of course, starting with a confession for you, as I always do. And this confession is something that I know I've actually mentioned this story on the podcast before, but not to illustrate this specific point. So maybe some of you remember this story of me running in Denver. We have a race that happens, I think it's in the spring every year, called the Cherry Creek Sneak. Cherry Creek is an area in Denver, and they do this 5-mile race through Cherry Creek. It's called the Cherry Creek Sneak. And many years ago at this point, probably at least maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I was really running a lot. I had some friends I ran with and stuff like that. And I decided I'm going to do the Cherry Creek Sneak, and I'm going to run an 8-minute mile. And so I trained for it. I did all this stuff for it. You might remember these aspects of the story. And a couple days, maybe 4 or 5 days before the race, I decided to do a 5-mile loop just around my neighborhood park, Wash Park, just to kind of prove to myself that I could do it. And I totally did it. I kicked butt. Like I ran that same 5 mile distance in a 7 minute and 50-second mile. So I nailed it. Then race day comes around, but I was so amped up and almost like weirdly panicked about it. It was like, oh my God, this is it. The moment I've been training for. I completely like messed up in so many ways. Like I screwed up my pacing. I ran way too fast in the beginning of the race. I missed a mile marker. So I got all confused and I didn't know where I was in the race. And ultimately, I finished the race with an 8 minute and 7 second mile. So I finished it 35 seconds more time than I wanted to. And I was devastated. And I've used this story before to talk about how we beat ourselves up and we get all fixated on perfection and blah, 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 even when it's like an arbitrary thing like this. But today, what I want to focus on about the story is the day 5 days earlier that I ran the same distance and totally just kicked butt. Because that day when I was just running around Wash Park, I was just practicing. It wasn't the real day. It was zero stakes. In fact, it was so zero stakes because I had extra days. Like, so let's say I've missed my time. I still had like 4 or 5 days to like train up and for race day or whatever. So it was like, it was just really a random morning. I was listening to my music and just going balls to the wall and running my face off. And what do you know? I kicked butt. So this gets into this whole concept of beginner's mind, Zen mind, beginner's mind. Like what is up with that? Like why is bringing that sort of like just newness and non-attachment and all that stuff to things, why is it so powerful? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And you can totally see this in all aspects of our lives, whether it's like some goal we're trying to hit professionally or some high stakes moment of like, I don't know, like meeting your partner's parents for the first time or your kid's partner for the first time. That has happened to me before. My kids are old enough that they've had like partners and introduced me to their partners and stuff like that. And sometimes I really nail it and sometimes I don't. So it could be high stakes situations. It could be also this idea that like in our parenting in general, like we have to get every moment right. We have to really nail it. So think about areas in your life where you're almost like building it up or bringing this kind of like simultaneous like hyperfixation and sleepwalking vibe to it at the same time, because that's what this is all really about. Whether we're talking about parenting, oh, making dinner every single night, or oh my God, I have to make dinner every single night and every dinner has to be perfect or else my kids are gonna like grow up to like be drug addicts or something like that. You know, those moments where we're simultaneously super attached to them and totally not present to them. They exist all throughout our lives. So think about that while I'm going through this. And I'm going to tell you a story about a client of mine who was actually working with me for business coaching. She's not working with me for parent coaching. And when you hire me for business coaching, there's a few sort of like worksheets that I have you do in the beginning of our work together to really identify like who is your ideal client, what do they need, and what is the transformation that you give them and how do you give it to them and all of that stuff. And we use all of that work to really sort of cultivate and curate the way that you want to market your business, your marketing message, where you market your business, and like the packages or offerings that you curate. Like these 3 worksheets, it's a series of worksheets, 1, 2, 3. And like when you finish the first worksheet, I give you the second worksheet. And then when you finish the second worksheet, I give you the third worksheet. And this client she had really kind of sailed through the first 2 worksheets, but she was taking forever to finish the third worksheet, which, you know, that's her thing. It's not a big deal. But it was driving her crazy because every session I would be like, okay, what are you committing to working on between now and our next session? And the answer would be, I'm going to finish this third worksheet. And I said, and you know, and then every time we'd get back together again, she wouldn't have finished it. So she was really like frustrated with herself. And so we decided to use our session to figure out like, why aren't you finishing this worksheet? Because like you totally could. Like it's not like it's advanced calculus and you just don't know how to do it or something like that. So what we discovered while we were going through this, okay, and so another little piece of backstory, like because she had taken so long to do these worksheets, she had also simultaneous to going through the worksheets, she had also been already working on like networking her business and just because we really agreed in the very beginning that she wanted to um do all of this sort of back of house stuff with me, but at the same time, she wanted to also be still, generating business and starting to sign clients and all of that stuff. So she kind of had this like sort of parallel approach that she was taking to our work, where she was doing all of this sort of like foundational work with me, but then at the same time, she was also like taking up any opportunities that came her way, working on networking, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole time while she was doing all of these worksheets, she was also networking, making connections. She had gotten like a guest speaker gig. She had actually gotten a couple of clients. She had gotten paid to go and teach a course. Like, so she had also generated all this stuff. But what came out in our session about, kind of like, why is it so hard for you to do this third worksheet? She basically said, like, it feels like once I'm done with that, there are no more worksheets. That's it. Like, I'm doing this for real. And now I'm really worried about, like, am I doing this right? And um, now that I'm finishing the worksheets, it matters if I do it right. Before it wasn't real yet, so it was fine to do it wrong. And so she had this like idea about like, um, this line in the sand, like once I finish this worksheet, then that's it. It's for real. It's kind of like me on race day. Like, this is it. This is prime time. All of the rehearsals, all of the leading up to this thing, that's done. Now here it is. We're center stage. That's the line in the sand. And once you cross that line in the sand, it becomes a big deal if you do it wrong or you screw up or you can't do it or whatever. So this like finishing this worksheet, it meant a lot to her. It meant that she couldn't try new stuff and get it wrong, or that there was a possibility she would discover that she really can't even do this thing that she had worked so hard to build this business. Like, a question that kept coming up for her is just kind of like, can I even do this? Like, is this even going to work? Is this business going to really even be a thing? All of that stuff she was able to kind of allow to be unanswered and just out in the universe before, because it was before the line in the sand. It didn't matter if you just messed around and tried some stuff and it didn't work, or you did something and it failed or whatever, because, to use her words, it's like, because I wasn't even done with preparing for this thing yet. So doing the thing poorly, it's completely fine. I'm not really even doing it yet. And what we started to realize is like when she was okay with not being successful, or had given herself permission to do all these things the wrong way or the like half-baked way or whatever, she wound up getting so much done. She generated clients, she had these great leads, she had these teaching gigs, she generated all this amazing stuff. And it sounded to me like, hey, it sounds like when you're in this space of like, it's no big deal and you're just, kind of getting ready or preparing, that's like a healthy ingredient for you. Um, and she said, yeah, like I kind of have this belief it's okay to practice. Like it's fine if I do all this stuff and it's practicing, it's not a problem. However it goes, it's not a problem if it's all practice. It's okay to practice. And before the line in the sand, I was just practicing. And that gets at this whole like, well, one of a myriad of ways to look at this whole Zen mind, beginner's mind idea. There's something special about practice mode. It's a place where you get to experiment and try out things. It's just this like laboratory or workshop instead of a stage where you put on your final performance, right? So like Like, think about like the stuff you obsess about, like, oh, your kid comes to talk to you about, like, I can give you an example from my life. Like, my kid came to talk to me about the first time one of my kids came to me to talk to me about a sexual experience they'd had that didn't go well, and it really impacted them. And, immediately, like, while they're telling it to me, I'm having this feeling of like, this is a really big deal conversation. Like, this is your moment. All of the preparations you've done to like handle and navigate parenting situations properly. Now is your moment. And don't fuck it up. And guess what? I totally messed it up. But it was like this feeling of like, this is it. It's too much. Whereas having this like more like practice mode idea of like, I'm going to have many, many, many opportunities to talk to my children about really important and intense things. And this isn't my only one. I'm just practicing. Every time I talk to them, I'm going to get better at it. And also, I'm just practicing. This is like our relationship, this like thing that we've created, the two of us together, is our like laboratory. It's not this final presentation. It's a thing that we're actively messing around with and co-creating. So my kid's going to screw it up a million times. I'm going to screw it up a million times. And we're just like, oh, wait, that didn't work. We're like building a thing with Legos. And sometimes you build it and it's like way too precarious and it just like falls over and collapses on itself or whatever. Oh, okay. Well, pick up the pieces. Let's try building it a little bit different. Maybe we need to put an extra leg on it over here. We need to make the legs thicker. We need to, right? It's okay. You're in practice mode. You're creating this thing. You're messing around. You're experimenting. You're trying stuff out. Well, that feels a heck of a lot better than, oh my God, this is it. Don't screw it up. Right. So, so as to take it back to this conversation with this client, when I said something about like, it seems like practice mode is really important to you. How could you stay in practice mode? What could you do to be in rehearsal, in practice mode all the time? And that was like became this like really cool, rich conversation that we had in our session. And she came up with some really cool strategies that she wanted to use that were stuff I never would have thought of. They were like reminders about certain experiences she had. And she even used an example of a Lego thing in her sort of exploration and stuff like that. But it really brings up this whole concept about Zen mind, beginner's mind. So let's talk about it because it's not just about practice mode, but practice mode is a big piece of it. So the actual quote, so there's a book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. It's by this Zen master, Suzuki. He started this Zen center in California and all this stuff. And the book is kind of like this compilation of his teachings and stuff like that. But the actual beginner's mind quote from that book is, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert mind, there are few. Holy cow. I'm just going to say that one more time because I want to let it sink in for you or give you some space to let it sink in for yourself. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. When we are in this space of newness and learning and practicing, and we're not supposed to have it figured out yet. The world is expansive. Creative solutions are everywhere, and nothing is a problem. Even the colossal, swings and misses of messing around and trying stuff out, that's part of it. It's how it's supposed to be. When you go into a lab and you're messing around and running your experiments, you're trying this, oh, that didn't work. Try this, that didn't work. It's fine. It's fine. The beginner's mind allows us to have infinite possibilities. And the book, obviously, is a simplification. I encourage you to read the book. But basically, he talks about the right attitude to bring to, and because he's a Zen master and this book is about Zen, to bring to meditation. That this mindset of the beginner's mind is what's necessary for really effective mastery of meditation. We're supposed to approach every meditation as if it's our first time without any preconceptions, and we're just kind of accepting the impermanence of things. Every meditation is its own thing. It's not just, oh, I meditate every morning. This is what I do. Oh, yep, I'm putting my headphones in. Oh, yep, putting my eye pillow on, whatever. It becomes rote. It loses meaning, and there are no possibilities. There's an idea of what it's supposed to be. That open, curious, non-judgmental mindset that's so much easier when you come to anything for the first time. You don't know what to expect, so how could you have preconceived notions? If we can learn to let go of our obsession with success and failure, even in those moments that are high stakes with our kids, that conversation with my kiddo, if I'm obsessed with success and failure, I will fail. And if I can accept that every moment of my relationship with my child, or every moment of life in general, doesn't have to be about my child, if I can accept them without judgment and really experience the existence of every moment as a new thing, the first, the last, the only, every moment, we can just have the most magical potentiality in our relationships and our connections with people. So when we don't have that obsession, when we don't have those preconceived notions, we can actually really attune to the moment, to what's going on in the relationship. And this concept is everywhere when you start to think about it. And the concept of what happens when we don't have a beginner's mind, what we do with that. So think about, what could you do to have a beginner's mind, to let go of that obsession with success or that high stakes? That's what it's all about, right? When we make everything high stakes, we do get attached to outcomes. We do have preconceived notions. We aren't attuned to this present moment. We're in this simultaneous sort of fixation on the future while living in the past. It's my roteness and my sleepwalking to this moment while I'm also completely obsessed with how it turns out. So I'm simultaneously in the past and in the future, but I'm definitely not in the present. That beginner's mind allows us to really just experience the expansive and infinite possibility of the world. So, what my client took away from that session, besides finally being able to not be paralyzed and finish that third worksheet for herself, I wrote down some of her takeaways. She said, I just want to not take it so seriously, to let it flow. It's not a finish line. It's just getting some new fun equipment to mess around with in my laboratory. So she was able to, finish her worksheets. She had already been successful in her business. She's like, I realized I was telling myself, I'm not really going to be ready until I finish this worksheet. Well, she obviously was already ready. She already had paying clients. She already had succeeded in all of these ways. But now she had built this thing up to be like, I'm going to be ready when this worksheet is done, but she didn't feel ready. So how could she finish the worksheet? And how could she be done with the worksheet if she didn't feel ready? And how could she feel ready if she didn't finish the worksheet? So she had really gotten herself into this goal, and allowing herself to go back into practice mode. So that's the language that we use between ourselves in our coaching, is practice mode. We don't talk about beginner's mind necessarily because that's not her language, but this concept of being in practice mode. This is okay. This is not opening night, whatever. So, this concept of beginner's mind, this concept of non-attachment and openness and sort of allowing it to be, to use her words, to let it flow, to not take it so seriously, all of these things. These are things that I hadn't really thought about it until I was like really laying out some of the concepts for this year's retreat. But they are concepts that are baked into the retreat, because I don't know about you, but when I have a 45-minute session with my practitioner, I come to that session where I'm like, okay, these are the things I want to talk about. This is what I need to get out of it. I only have 45 minutes with this magical, precious person. And it's high stakes. Here I am right back into that quagmire of making it be like, this is what I'm supposed to be getting out of this session, or this is my chance. This is my one and only chance to get what I need from this thing that I'm doing in this moment in time. Coming to a retreat is the opposite of that. It's like, I'm here for 4 days. Like it's fine if every single minute I'm not like getting the meaning of life from the teaching, or like, staring at the lake and like taking it all in like a photographic memory because I only get to have it for 45 minutes. No, it's all just messing around in the laboratory. We don't have to make it so high stakes and thereby be totally out of the present moment. We can just truly be present, be where we are, be with what we're experiencing. And we can bring that beginner's mind of, I don't know what today is going to hold, and I don't need to know, and I don't need to control it, and I'm not attached to the outcome of it. There's so much more, like, it just makes it easier to do that, is what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to do that when time and space is compressed. When there's that expansion, all the other things expand too. The possibilities expand, the relaxation expands, the sort of solutions expand. Everything becomes much more like expansive, and you start to really find the sort of infinitude of the world and the enormity of myriad possibilities so much more accessible, because you're not, in this like high stakes, high pressure, compressed moment. So I hope that's helpful for you today. I wish you all a beginner's mind. Think about the things that you're doing today that you've done 1,000 times before, and just see, can you come to those things as if it were the first time, and see what happens if you do. And you may have heard me talk about the retreat a million times, listening to me talk about how magical it is, and about all of the wonderfulness of it. It might be something that's kind of going in one ear and out the other these days. Can you hear me with a beginner's mind? Can you hear me talk about the retreat as if you've never heard of it before? And when you do, what comes up for you? Are you ready? Are you ready to try it and give yourself that experience and put yourself in this really cool, expansive laboratory for a few days? If so, you know what to do. Reply to the email, click on the link, Google me, go to the website, all of the things that you hear me say every week. You can connect with me. I am here to talk with you. I have so many ways, talk about infinite possibilities, so many ways to help you and make this retreat happen for you. Money should not be an object. I make sure that that's not the limiting factor for anybody who wants to come to the retreat. Timing, logistics are a myriad of solutions to everything that your ego presents you as a reason not to come. And what's on the other side of that for you? Probably a whole new experience. It will be so much easier for you to bring a beginner's mind to, because it is a beginning experience for you. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long, or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call And let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.